Love is a high-risk behavior.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, High Risk for Heartbreak. I am your host, Christina, and I'm so glad you decided to join me today. For those of you whose first time here, I want to welcome you into the space, welcome you into this community, and I thank you guys so much for just stopping by to see what this is all about. You have come in on the tail end of a 8-day series that I was doing around creating the space for the gift of love. As we are exiting this holiday season, it is currently December 31st when I'm filming, and we are exiting this holiday season, getting ready for the new year. I have just been really grateful for this push at the last half of the year. This is kind of like a reflective series that I'm doing on some things that I have been encountering along my 2024 journey, and I obviously wanted to share that with you guys. So that's what I brought to you here. Today, we are going to discuss the very last step. Or it's not even really a step. This is more exhortation for you. This is the very last part of creating the space for the gift of love. And the idea that love is this thing that we all search for, we all seek, we all need. It is a human need, a very fundamental need to our existence if we're ever going to have a proper existence here upon this earth. And it is something that we absolutely have to be able to give. Despite the curmudgeon people out there, they need to also give love, and they want to, but not everybody is equipped with the ability to, especially following heartbreak. And so that is the reason why this podcast exists, is to help us heal through heartbreak and understand that heartbreak is a natural part of our existence here upon this earth, but it also is something that we can mitigate, we can make better, and we can come to expect. And in the new year, I will be giving you guys some tips, actually, I think on the next episode, on how to expect or how to plan for a year of heartbreaks. Heartbreaks, as we know, usually come via relationships, but they may come via a job loss. They may come, via expectations. Maybe you set goals or forecasts for yourself and you don't obtain those things. Maybe some of the stuff is outside of your control. And so there's going to be these little miniature, as my therapist likes to describe them, paper cuts, right? These heartbreaks, these miniature ones that begin to add up. And it does affect how you show up in the world. So today I want to talk about how love is graceful. I want to talk about how love is one of these things that we have to become flexible for. And so let's get into it. Self-awareness is a gift that I would like to think everyone has, but it seems not everyone uses this gift as an aid in their day-to-day living. Self-awareness is one of the greatest checks and balances of the human mind, of our emotions and our behaviors. And it gives us advantages in the area of our personal responsibility, stewardship of our relationships, and our capability in the workforce. To have an awareness of self, to me, seems to require a certain level of humility and discovery in order for it to be effective for the soul, which is the mind, the will, imagination, and affections. Self-awareness is both an architect and a general contractor in our lives. I say that it is a gift because I have been in close and not so close relationships with people who do not open the gift of self-awareness. Not to be shady. If they do open it, they avoid using it to their advantage. People who lack self-awareness seem to move through life in a way that is blind to a whole other part of their being, which I find to be one of the most invested parts in the success of all that we will do. You have spent the last few days with me exercising self-awareness. You have taken personal assessment, looking at areas of your relationship in your life where you have a contribution. You've examined the condition of your heart, and you decided to change some things about the condition of your heart, especially those hardened parts, allowing for your heart to be reconditioned. You plan to support the process of breaking down that scar tissue, and you've built habits, and then notice that you were coasting through those habits. You took 7 days of self-aware action towards a success for your future relationships. Really, these last 7 days have been all about self-awareness and our effectiveness to recognize the dominion that God has equipped us with over our personal being. It can be so easy to look at the world like it is coming at us, when in fact, if we really step back, We have a whole jurisdiction over our lives granted by God, and we can either opt out of enforcing it, or we can activate and use our dominion and our prowess to create like an architect and produce like a general contractor. When I realized how to look at myself, a tool that I believe came from my parents entrusting me with small responsibilities at my single-digit ages, and learned through therapy how to introspect and how to reflect, I gained a greater understanding of people. And it increased my grace for people because I had more grace for myself. So, what is grace? It is freely given, unmerited or undeserved favor from God. Grace encompasses love. It encompasses forgiveness, humility, integrity. It's non-record keeping and so much more. Grace is given to us in our unawareness. Grace covers us even when we might actually deserve to be rained on. Grace is what allows us to live out our lives from a broken place and still experience the gift of love. Grace is the gift of love. If we were to step back and examine if we exercise grace for ourselves and others, if we were to self-reflect, exercising awareness, stepping out of our shoes and into another's shoes, or out of our shoes and looking at relationships that we have in totality, we would see all of the areas where grace is not present. We would see all of the areas where we force change on others that we have not expected of ourselves. We would see where we have benefited from grace and others did not, but we didn't even see it as a gift. We saw it as an expectation. We would see that we are selfishly accepting grace after grace after grace and have not been aware enough to give grace after grace to the people that we love. Being graceful is not something we do. It's at the heart of who we are. Our hearts must be conditioned for grace, both giving and receiving. When I first started training aerial, I was also training for CrossFit. Now, these two types of exercises are extremely different from one another. They are literally on opposite ends of the spectrum. And my aerial coach one day got on to me about how inflexible I had become because I was lifting weights and I was putting myself through all these rigorous exercises, doing completely two opposite things. She noticed a change in my ability to be graceful. So one day I invited my CrossFit coach to come and watch me train. And he said, "You look like you're muscling through everything, Christina." I was shocked, y'all. First of all, don't come for me. I was shocked. I did not know either of these perspectives until they were made aware of me. I was just doing. I was just being. But what I lacked was awareness of how I was showing up to them and how the weights and the workouts and all of that stuff, how the weight of heartbreak and all of that stuff had made me tight and had made me inflexible. And it took years of work to take the muscling and the tightness out of my body, to become more fluid and to become more graceful. And now, one of the top compliments I receive, thankfully, is when I'm doing aerial, is that I am so graceful. I share this because it took me years to rework my body in such a way that it would naturally show up gracefully. I had to become aware and then decide to stop the things that were impeding my gracefulness. I had to stick to that plan, making it habitual for me, even in the times when I felt like I was plateauing. I had to accept the release of my tightness, like the tight and hardened places of my heart, and allow grace to overcome me, grace to love me, to usher me to legato-like love. It took self-awareness to see the areas of my life where I was muscling through and forcing myself and others to experience my struggle. God does not want us to struggle at this thing called love, but He knew we would. That is why He gave us specific instructions on how to do it. Because of our human nature, we are not aware enough to do it gracefully on our own. He had to put us on notice, making us aware and responsible for ourselves, giving us jurisdiction, giving us dominion. He said, love is patient. It's kind. This is me putting you on notice, if no one else has, that to open yourself to the gift of love, you have to open yourself to the gift of awareness. Then by God's grace, you will be ready to healthily receive and gracefully give with a reconditioned heart that is purposefully postured for the gift of love. Believe that the world is coming from you, not at you. I hope you accept this series as a gift from me to you. I love you. Thank you for loving yourself first, so you can then go and love your neighbor. Until next time.
Why don't you stay a little longer? You like what you like, right? Subscribe to the channel so we can spend a little more time together, and maybe comment your thoughts because I care what you're thinking. Love is the risk and the reward.